and it's literally a lesbian mafia. They admit, ESPN reporters admit this, that run the women's NBA, and they hate her because she's non-political and white.
The explosion of impact, the fist connecting with the throat, that single moment involving Alyssa Thomas and Caitlin Clark has blown the doors off the WNBA. It's not just a basketball play anymore, it's a flashpoint. The collision between Alyssa Thomas's aggression and Caitlin Clark's stardom has transcended the sport. Alyssa Thomas didn't just commit a flagrant foul, she ignited a cultural wildfire. The physicality directed at Caitlin Clark has drawn the attention of United States senators, with a formal warning that this kind of treatment for Caitlin Clark cannot continue. This isn't about a scraped knee or a hard foul. The narrative surrounding Alyssa Thomas and Caitlin Clark has shifted from sports analysis to a debate on power, race, and politics. When you put your hands on Caitlin Clark with that level of violence, a fist directly to the throat, you're not just challenging a player, you're challenging the entire economic structure of the league. Alyssa Thomas might have thought she was sending a message, but what she actually did was trigger a reaction that no one in the WNBA executive offices was prepared for. The silence following Alyssa Thomas's actions on Caitlin Clark is deafening.
He covered this.
Of Mercury Alyssa Thomas issued flagrant foul, suspended for 1 game for hitting Caitlin Clark in the throat, knocks her down, hits her in the throat. We have slow motion of that we can show right now. And then the corporate media spun all of this and said, Caitlin Clark is just taking some time off because she hurt her back. They're not even telling people what happened. Look at NBC News. Caitlin Clark leaves fever loss with a back injury, doesn't return.
This is the moment that broke the camel's back. The slow motion replay is evidence. Alyssa Thomas swings, and her fist connects squarely with Caitlin Clark's throat, forcing the generational talent to the ground. That is assault. Let's be clear. If that play involving Alyssa Thomas and Caitlin Clark happened on the street, it's a felony. The legal implications of Alyssa Thomas's actions toward Caitlin Clark are severe. It's a 30-second sequence that should have resulted in an immediate ejection for Alyssa Thomas. But instead, the officials just let the game flow, ignoring the assault on Caitlin Clark. And then came the gaslighting. When Alyssa Thomas choked the life out of the narrative, the league and its media sympathizers tried to hide the story. They claimed Caitlin Clark was out with a back injury. A back injury! Wanted the world to forget that Alyssa Thomas put her fist in Caitlin Clark's throat. This is a direct attack on the truth. The corporate media, instead of covering Alyssa Thomas's vicious play on Caitlin Clark, sanitized it, but the strategy backfired. The attempt to shield Alyssa Thomas from the consequences of her actions against Caitlin Clark only made the public angrier. The physical risk to Caitlin Clark is now a political issue. Alyssa Thomas has become the face of a league that seems determined to destroy its own golden goose. The tolerance of Alyssa Thomas's repeated targeting of Caitlin Clark reveals a fundamental corruption at the heart of the league. It was an incident, yes, but it was an incident that exposed the total incompetence of the officials who let Alyssa Thomas stay on the floor to target Caitlin Clark.
First of all, thank you for having me. I mean, Caitlin Clark deserves better. Everybody knows she is the savior of the WNBA. I play 11 years basketball in NBA, and I think the review team did a terrible job because that's a direct ejection, but unfortunately, they waited after the game. So when I played 11 years in NBA, you know, that has to be reviewed, and that at that moment, she needs to be kicked out immediately because that is unacceptable. That is not what sportsmanship looks like. And
if you know the game, you know Alyssa Thomas should have been gone. The NBA veterans are weighing in, and their verdict on Alyssa Thomas is damning. A former NBA star was screaming at the television because the referees allowed Alyssa Thomas to continue hunting Caitlin Clark. In the NBA, that play involving Alyssa Thomas and Caitlin Clark is reviewed, and Alyssa Thomas is ejected immediately. It's a reviewable play. It's an automatic suspension. But in this situation, the WNBA let Alyssa Thomas get away with assaulting Caitlin Clark. The psychology of Alyssa Thomas is the central issue here. Why does Alyssa Thomas feel emboldened to put her hands on Caitlin Clark? Alyssa Thomas walks around smiling, grinning, fully aware of the physical danger she poses to Caitlin Clark, and she's done it before. The league is liable for the actions of Alyssa Thomas. They've created an environment where attacking Caitlin Clark is acceptable. This harkens back to the bad boy Pistons era, but even then, the cheap shots on Michael Jordan, the targets, were immediately met with fines and suspensions. The WNBA's handling of Alyssa Thomas's attack on Caitlin Clark is a disgrace, far worse than any era in NBA history. If Alyssa Thomas is allowed to continue this physical assault on Caitlin Clark, the league is basically signing off on the destruction of their own product. Alyssa Thomas has zero value if she's just the designated enforcer against Caitlin Clark. Why even have Alyssa Thomas in the league if she's a liability? The tolerance of Alyssa Thomas's behavior is a stain on the sport. The officials are complicit in the targeting of Caitlin Clark.
I was screaming at the TV, how the hell is she still in the game? Kick her the hell out. I said she should have got at least 10 games. But really, if you want this shit to stop, Alyssa Thomas ought to be riding the pine the rest of the year. The season, rest of the season. We're 1/3 into the season, and she ought to be riding the pine through the rest of it. Forfeit her salary. This is interesting. And this is not making its way around yet.
The outcry is reaching a fever pitch because the fallout is more than just a suspension. The financial implications of letting Alyssa Thomas assault Caitlin Clark are catastrophic. If Alyssa Thomas is only suspended for a single game, the message is that Caitlin Clark is not protected. That is a financial hit to the WNBA. A member of the United States Senate has openly warned the WNBA. The treatment of Caitlin Clark by players like Alyssa Thomas must stop. When you have politicians calling for DOJ investigations into the WNBA handling of Caitlin Clark, you know the stakes are franchise-altering. The league might be headed to Capitol Hill to explain why they let Alyssa Thomas get away with putting a fist to Caitlin Clark's throat. The fans have had enough. They are boycotting games. They see the injustice. They see that the league allows Alyssa Thomas to target Caitlin Clark without consequences. The boycott of Indiana Fever games in support of Caitlin Clark is growing. If the league doesn't act, the WNBA won't be able to control this anymore. The union needs to step in and realize that tolerating Alyssa Thomas's behavior is bad for the game. Alyssa Thomas should be riding the pine for the rest of the season. That is the only way to send a message that this assault on Caitlin Clark is unacceptable. Forfeit Alyssa Thomas's salary. If Caitlin Clark had a real agent, the league would be burning. But instead, they are letting Alyssa Thomas get away with assaulting Caitlin Clark. The failure of the league to eject Alyssa Thomas shows their weakness. The hatred for Caitlin Clark is palpable. The narrative is clear. Alyssa Thomas crossed a line. The WNBA's failure to protect Caitlin Clark has turned a basketball incident into a national scandal. The league owes Caitlin Clark an apology and a guarantee of safety. If they don't control the aggression of players like Alyssa Thomas, they risk alienating the very fans that Caitlin Clark brought to the table. Alyssa Thomas made a statement on the court, but the league's silence is louder than any cheap shot. Caitlin Clark is the future, and Alyssa Thomas is jeopardizing it. Are you boycotting the WNBA until they properly punish Alyssa Thomas? Let us know in the comments.